Hey, what's going on, CoinOpTV subscribers? Robert, welcome here. And in this video, I want to talk about my top 5 favorite Steven Spielberg movies. And I want you to let me know in the comments below what some of your favorite Steven Spielberg movies are. So with that, let's start off with honorable mention. First, honorable mention, I'm going to go with Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Close Encounters of the Third Kind from 1977, starring Richard Dreyfuss and Melinda Dillon. An Indiana electric lineman finds his quiet and ordinary daily life turned upside down after a close encounter with a UFO. This causes an obsession with him to go cross country to go on a quest to find answers to a momentous event as it approaches. So I saw this in the theaters when I was a kid. I think it might have been a reissue of the movie or something, and I remember just being in awe of the special effects, the music score, of course, just the road trip, the travel, the adventure, the wonderment was all very fun. But the reason why it goes on the honorable mention is just because it's a bit of a slow burn. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, while it's fun, enjoyable, it's just kind of slow, and you got to kind of force yourself now to really kind of sit through it all without any interruption. So that's why it's honorable mention. But let me get on to my top 5 Steven Spielberg clips here, Steven Spielberg movies, and let's go with number 5. Controversial pick here, Raiders of the Lost Ark. For some of you, you may put Raiders of the Lost Ark number 1. I'm putting it up as number 5. Raiders of the Lost Ark from 1981, of course, starring Harrison Ford, Karen Allen, archaeologist Professor Indiana Jones ventures to seize a biblical artifact known as the Ark of the Covenant. While doing so, he puts up a fight against Renee and a troop of Nazis. Just a fun movie overall. What I do like about Raiders is, of course, the opening. The first 10-15 minutes or so is pretty unmatchable as far as cinematic and drama and action and suspense and just hitting the marks on everything. And unfortunately, that's my complaint also with the movie, is that the intro and the opening is just so great that I feel like while the rest of the movie has its merits and it's fun and it's an adventure, it just doesn't really captivate me as much as the beginning. So that's why it's kind of in my top 5. Still a fun movie and still great to watch, but I have some ones that I prefer better. Number 4, I'm going to go with Jurassic Park. The first original Jurassic Park, of course, not one of these garbage sequels that they keep churning out. So Jurassic Park from 1993, starring Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum. A pragmatic paleontologist touring an almost complete theme park on an island in Central America is tasked with protecting a couple of kids after a power failure causes the park's clone dinosaurs to run loose. Of course, you've seen Jurassic Park. Of course, you've seen trailers or clips, memes. The thing about this movie that really draws me in is, again, the wonderment, the awe, the special effects. But there's also the character development with Sam Neill's character and the kids and his lack of interest in taking care of them, and then how he has kind of a little bit of a change of heart and almost a driving force to take care of the kids and protect them and survive them. And the later Jurassic Park movies have put children in perils, and they've kind of recycled this a bit. There's something about the way Steven Spielberg did it in the first movie that really held my interest and kept me going, and just, of course, the special effects and the dinosaurs. And there's just something about the way they filmed the first one that makes it superior than all the sequels and all the other ones, and probably any future ones to come. Just something about the way they're dark or mysterious. They're not shown a lot of them. So that's why Jurassic Park number 4. So let's get with number 3, a serious movie here, Schindler's List. Schindler's List from 1993, starring Liam Neeson, Ray Fiennes, Ben Kingsley. In German-occupied Poland during World War II, industrialist Oskar Schindler gradually becomes concerned for his Jewish workforce after witnessing their persecution by the Nazis. Some of the stuff that I like from Schindler's List is, of course, when you say, I love this movie, I like this movie, the subject matter is just so intense and so serious, so it's hard to, champion it, but it's such an achievement on black and white. Cinematography, score, it just goes on so many different levels. What I really like about this movie is kind of how Liam Neeson kind of portrays Oskar Schindler as kind of this centerpiece of the story, where you're not quite sure if he sympathizes with the Jews or if he's you know, has selfish reasoning. It kind of says verbally that, hey, I need this for money, I need these workers for money. And it's not really as you go through the movie that you really kind of see a little bit of twinkle in his eye, and the change of his tone of his voice, where he's really starting to sympathize and really wants to reach out. And towards the end there's just some really strong, poignant moments where you could really see he's like, man, I wish I could have done more. I wish I could have done more. And of course, this also has the bookends with the movie there as well. Kind of, or at least at the end there, where it kind of goes into color and kind of shows some real world survivors kind of at his grave and stuff, and just powerful stuff there. A reminder of things. So, all right, well, let's get on to number 2. A lighthearted movie, and what some people might consider his Steven Spielberg's number 1 movie, and that's Jaws. But I'm gonna put it at number 2, which is close. This is, on any given day, I might change my tune on number 1 and number 2. But Jaws from 1975, starring Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, and Richard Dreyfuss. When a killer shark unleashes chaos on a beach community off Cape Cod, it's up to a local sheriff, a marine biologist, and an old seafarer to hunt the beast down. Again, another movie I saw when I was a kid. I think maybe kind of a reissue. Back when I was a kid, it was like the late 70s and the 80s. You'd have to wait. There was no VHS, no streaming services. You had to wait for movies to kind of get re-released in movie theaters again to kind of champion them. And I remember hearing about this and not knowing the entire story, what was to come, or seeing advertisements, and then seeing it, probably in the early 80s as a reissue as a kid or something, and just being like blown away. The suspense, the drama. What I like about Jaws, most of all, is it's just a climbing scenario kind of leading to a climax at the end. No letting down, no hiccups going sort of down. Every scene, every moment is new information given to us that just draws you in further with the suspense and wanting to know more about what's happening, or this creature, the Jaws. And Steven was very clever in directing this and not showing a lot of the monster or the Jaws, the giant shark. Of course, a lot of that was attributed to the special effects not being so great, so it kind of forced his hand a bit, but inadvertently, that kind of helped the suspense in the movie and really draw to the climactic battle at the end. And, it's one of those movies that, if you've seen it, it makes you kind of afraid to go in the water. I think that might have been one of the taglines or something like that. And it's true. Whereas, Jurassic Park, we know we're not going to ever get dinosaurs roaming the earth, but there's always the fear of a great, shark there that can, be out in the water as unsuspecting victims. So let's get to number 1. Saving Private Ryan is my number 1 pick. And this is one of those ones that's kind of became number 1 over time with repeated viewings. So Saving Private Ryan from 1998, Tom Hanks, Matt Dillon, Edward Burns, Barry Pepper, and a whole bunch more in this movie ensemble cast. The story is, following the Normandy landings, a group of U.S. soldiers go behind enemy lines to retrieve a paratrooper whose brothers have been killed in action. So the big achievement with Saving Private Ryan is probably the opening 25 minutes or so with a storm on the beach and they're landing, and it's filmed in such a way that it's really shaky and documentary style, and Steven Spielberg really went out of his way to capture the intensity of that. And while I do think that that's a great achievement and stands the test of time on its own, and kind of a game changer, a lot of knockoff and rip-offs, whenever we see war movies now, we do see a lot of that same cinematography, shooting style and editing style and sound effect style that they use for that opening scene. But what I like about Saving Private Ryan and why it's moved to the top of the number 1 is kind of the second half of the movie with Tom Hanks and his group, and the camaraderie and the interaction and the dialogue and the difficult questions that they sort of face and pose and challenges along the way as they kind of road trip in deeper and deeper into Nazi Germany to find their fallen, comrade there into Nazi enemy lines. I'm not quite sure. I'm not forgetting, if they're in Germany going through there. But anyway, through enemy lines, and to find and rescue Matt Damon, and then when they find him, he poses kind of another question like, hey, I'm not leaving, without my brothers and stuff, and sort of forces Tom Hanks's hand and his troop to stay behind and have that big battle at the end of the movie that really, get you, because you get to know all these characters, who they are, what they're all about. And it almost feels like more brutal, more intense. So that's why I like Saving Private Ryan as my number one, and why it's kind of floated to the top, over the years. And again, it's tough with Jaws and Saving Private Ryan. Again, a year or two from now, I may flip-flop those upon repeated viewings and stuff like that, but that's kind of the way I'm going to go with my top list there. So if you're watching this video and you're enjoying, my content, please hit the subscribe and the like button, and most of all, let me know what some of your favorite Steven Spielberg movies are in the comments below. For CoinOpTV, thanks a bunch for watching. We'll see you next time.